Thank you very much, John. I must, first of all, congratulate John for having either great prescience or a very good astrologer, for having picked the 17th of February as the date to launch the report in Singapore. Because today, as you know, the new Secretary of State is in Japan on the first leg of her historic visit to Asia. So, John, congratulations. I'm very, very pleased to also welcome my good friend and guru, Stapleton Roy, who's not only one of the United States' most distinguished diplomats, but in my view, one of the best strategic thinkers. He has served in 2 of the 4 countries that Secretary Clinton is visiting on this trip, China and Indonesia. And I don't know how he got assigned to a small country called Singapore, but we were extremely pleased that he spent a few years with us. Raja Mohan is India's gift to Singapore. He's one of India's best strategic thinkers, and I think Dr. Baru will agree with me. He called concurrent appointments at the Nehru University and at the Rajaratnam School. And I must tell John that it has been a very great pleasure for Raja, Han Song-ju and I to have worked together in writing this report. Taking advantage of my wife's absence this afternoon, I will make more than my customary 3 points. And I will be grateful if Lillian would not report this to her this evening. First, I want to do something contrarian. The 43rd president has been receiving a lot of criticism lately. So I want to begin by praising, not criticizing, President George W. Bush. I think he got his Asia policy right. He strengthened U.S.-Japan alliance. He transformed U.S.-India relations. He pursued a stable relationship with China and successfully restrained some of Chen Shui-bian's provocations in Taiwan. He chose negotiations over the use of force in dealing with North Korea. And he upgraded the U.S.-ASEAN relationship, as well as honored Singapore with 2 visits during his tenure. I wish also to thank Ambassador Frank Levin and Ambassador Patricia Hope Herbo for their many contributions to the deepening and broadening of the friendship between the United States and Singapore during the past 8 years. Second, I think it is a historic first for a new U.S. Secretary of State to make her first visit abroad to Asia. Speaking to the Asia Society in New York last Friday, Secretary Clinton said, and I quote, "There has been a general feeling that perhaps we didn't pay an appropriate amount of attention to Asia over the last years, being preoccupied with other parts of the world. So I leave for Asia, ready to deliver a message about America's desire for more rigorous and persistent commitment and engagement," unquote. We warmly welcome her visit, and we thank President Obama and Secretary Clinton for according Asia priority over all the other important regions of the world. Third, Southeast Asia and ASEAN must, however, be realistic and must not expect that we will be given the same priority as Japan, Korea, which are treaty allies, India, and China. What evidence do I have for this rather downbeat view? This region does not feature at all in the Obama-Biden foreign policy agenda, which was published in Washington on the 21st of January. In Secretary Clinton's oral statement to the Senate during the confirmation hearing, which I read carefully, the only reference I could find to Southeast Asia or ASEAN was in this sentence, and I quote, "We also have crucial economic and security partnerships with South Korea, Australia, and other friends in ASEAN," unquote. It is in the nature of Washington, D.C. that regions which are large and have strategic weight will be given a place on the front burner, or regions which are troublesome and a threat to international peace or to American interests will also be given a high priority. Southeast Asia is relatively peaceful, prosperous, and non-threatening to the world or to the United States. And because we are such good girls and good boys, we therefore do not get a place on the front burner. This is understandable, and it's therefore a realistic view to have. My next question, fourth. Will Obama continue to appoint a U.S. ambassador to ASEAN? In reply to a question by Senator Richard Lugar, who is the senior Republican in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Secretary Clinton said she would recommend the continued appointment of a U.S. ambassador to ASEAN. Mrs. Clinton also said that she shared Senator Lugar's assessment of the critical importance of ASEAN and the need for the United States to enhance and elevate its relations with this region, unquote. Fifth, I think I can confidently say on behalf of the ASEAN family that we are very pleased that Mrs. Clinton will be visiting Indonesia after Japan and before South Korea and China. Although Indonesia is not the current chairman of ASEAN, it is a founding member and by far the largest member. During her Senate hearing, Mrs. Clinton wrote, and I quote, "With close to 240 million people, the world's largest Muslim majority country, and the world's third largest democracy, Indonesia is the giant of Southeast Asia and a crucial and valued U.S. partner in Asia," unquote. I hope that Mrs. Clinton's visit to Indonesia will pave the way for an early visit to that country by President Obama. As you know, he's a hero in Indonesia, having spent 4 years of his childhood there. I also hope that President Obama will choose Indonesia as the venue for his much-awaited lecture on Islam and the United States. I have written in my report that the overwhelming majority of Muslims in this region practice Islam in a tolerant manner, and they see no contradiction between Islam on the one hand and modernity and democracy on the other. 6. The former U.S. Secretary of State, Dr. Condoleezza Rice, had missed 2 of the annual ministerial meetings of the ASEAN Regional Forum. This did not go down well with her colleagues, who took it as a slight. Mrs. Clinton has more or less promised that, unlike her predecessor, she would participate in the annual ministerial meetings of the ARF. This will be greatly appreciated by her ASEAN and other colleagues, both as a sign of respect, but much more important, as a commitment by the United States to the only political cum security forum of the Asia-Pacific region. 7. Of the 10 dialogue partners of ASEAN, the United States is only one of 3 which has not yet signed the ASEAN Treaty on Amity and Cooperation. When asked whether the Obama administration would sign the treaty, Mrs. Clinton replied that the administration will explore the desirability and feasibility of the U.S. signing the treaty. I hope that after review, the United States will sign the treaty because the treaty doesn't contain any principle which the United States had not already subscribed to. And it would not be good for the United States to continue to lag behind the other major dialogue partners.